everyone, it is your girl Paige here. Welcome. It's another ASMR video. I have not done one of these in a while, so I thought, hey, I am back. I will be back to do one. My last video was about a month and a half ago, and then like 3-4 months ago, I did a Nancy Drew read along. Someone commented that they wanted me to do another one, and I said, yeah, girl, I got you. I'll do it soon. And then it's like 4 months later, or like 2 months later. So unless by some chance she finds this again, this is for you, girl, because I don't have like a lot of people who watch my ASMR content, which is okay with me. I will be reading none other than Nancy Drew the classic. It is called The Secret of the Golden Pavilion by Carolyn Keene. Secret of the Secret Golden Pavilion. Last time I read The Bungalow Mystery. Well, not the whole thing. I do have my brush, and first I'm gonna read, and then afterwards I'm gonna like brush and make some clicky sounds. So, thank you guys for watching. said that so far as he could find out, the burglar had been after only one thing: a briefcase containing papers relating to a new case, which he had just taken. The intruder may have wanted these for some special reason, but also he may have been after an odd-looking object that was in the briefcase. My client was sending it to you, Nancy. It was a copy of a rare, old Polynesian artifact. A wooden figure, half human and half bird. It had little monetary value, so I am puzzled about that aspect of the burglary. Perhaps Nancy the thief believed the piece to be old and rare. Possibly. Her father agreed. Nancy inquired how the burglar might have learned about the contents of the briefcase. Mr. Drew stared into space a moment, then answered, I had luncheon today with my new client, Mr. Sakamaki. He's Hawaiian. He talked rather freely about this case. It was a public restaurant, and perhaps the burglar was seated nearby listening to the conversation.